we're going to work with Garageband's sampler plug-in instrument. And in class today, we worked on how to use a sample editor like Audacity to export and create our own short format sample to load into that sampler. However, if you want, you can just go ahead and download that short sample. So we talked about how the orchestra hit is a historically relevant sample that is very ubiquitous in today's pop music culture. And you'll soon hear what I mean when we use it to create a sample trigger. This Firebird 5 audio example, it can be downloaded from week 13 on D2L and used in our sampler. So the first step is to download that audio file and unzip it. So you'll go ahead and show it in Finder, double click it, and it'll turn into a WAV file. That WAV file is what you need to load into the sampler in Garageband. So let's go over to Garageband, create an empty project, as we've done before with software instruments, and create a software instrument. Now, if you're using Garageband in the lab, you may need to do the following so that the sampler appears. Go to the Garageband Preferences, go to Audio/MIDI, and make sure that this tick box for Enable Audio Units is enabled. Make sure it's clicked and highlighted so that Garageband knows to look for AU plugins. Once you've made sure that that is selected, you can go down to your first instrument, expand the plugins area down here, and this is where you can select a new instrument beyond what electric piano sounds like. So if we click our little arrow over here, click the little arrows, AU Instruments, Apple, AUSampler, Stereo. We're going to load the AUSampler in stereo. Click on that option and it'll load our sampler instrument as a floating window. Next, we're going to load the audio file into this sampler. So notice if you press the keys on your keyboard, it is simply a sine wave. We are going to replace that sine wave with a audio file. So if we go down to click where it says Sine 110 built in, we're going to click Choose File and select the Firebird file that you've downloaded from D2L. You click Open, and now that file is being triggered by your MIDI keyboard. And notice too that it changes pitch as you play your keyboard. Right? So that's how you load a sample into your sampler instrument. Once you've loaded a sample into your sample instrument, you can go down to the editor. Remember, the E key is what you use to open the editor. It will allow you to create a sound that triggers, or a sequence, that triggers the sounds you loaded into your sampler. And I'll just make a simple loop here and see if I can make that sound any good here on my little demonstration here. And we're not trying to make anything too extremely complex. And I want to go ahead and select these and quantize our sounds. Right? Now I've got a sampler loaded that is playing my sound file according to my MIDI information that I've programmed into this area here. Once you've done that, you can now build a drum editor down here, or a drum kit, or I'm going to use electronic drum kit, and I'm going to use an 808 because that's really great. And I'm going to go down here to my kick drum and make a backbeat. And remember, I'm hitting Command to hold. I'm holding down Command with my thumb and clicking into the piano roll here to create a basic backbeat. Kick and snare alternate. And I'm also going to add the claps. I think that's up here. Sorry. E flat, sorry. And I'm going to loop that out. And now I can add effects to my instrument by hitting the smart controls where my sampler is. I can add simple delay or other effects to this sound to make it even more activated. So basically what we're doing is we're using this sampler as an instrument that we're going to load a sample into. We can change that sample to whatever we want, but we're using this Firebird Suite audio file because it's such a very famous sample and it's easy to use. You can replace this with any short sample file that you'd like. I recommend it being under 5 seconds long, very short. That's why we brought it into Audacity first and edited it down into something smaller. Basically, the assignment then is to complete this project with a sample loaded into a sampler used rhythmically. Remember to quantize your notes. Include a drum beat that you sequence yourself. I recommend a backbeat, simple backbeat. And then add one other sequenced MIDI track of your choice. That can just be a bass line or something like that. Loop it out to be a minute long. Export it as an audio file. Turn off that metronome. And then upload your MP3 to the Dropbox. If you have any questions, definitely be in touch.